Welcome to Better Questions, a place where together we don't look for answers. And today's question is, why is it that we feel hurt, sometimes even threatened, when someone questions the things that make us who we are, that make us us? When two people have a conversation, it's usually two people waiting their turn to talk. It's two monologues, it's two radio stations broadcasting at each other and creating static rather than music. And it's for the simple reason that we come to every conversation completely full of ideas, full of opinions, full of good intentions, but we never come to a problem, or we never meet a person with an empty mind, right? We have an image about our friends, about our spouses, and we usually interact with that image. We have thoughts about the thoughts we have of them, rather than the actual meeting of that person. And even in this conversation, right, you're listening to this with a certain set of beliefs and past experiences, and you're waiting to negotiate, you're waiting to compare and to put a certain hierarchy on your ideas and mine. And within that lies the actual foundation as to why or how the mind operates and why we contaminate every conversation or dialogue that we have. And it's because there's this sense of separation. There's a separation between you and me. You have your thoughts about the thing that we're trying to discuss, and I have my thoughts about it. And then usually what happens is we try to find compromise, right? We try to find some sort of common ground. And I would put that to the test, and I would ask the question, like, is finding compromise really the true connection of people? Is that really what we mean by deeply understanding something, to try and find common ground? And if we look at it deeply, because it may sound obvious at first, and we're like, yeah, duh, we all know this, but if you care to look deeply at this and as to what happens inside. So for example, if you think you're a kind person or an interesting person or a funny person and someone questioned this, or if we look at more general things that people question, for example, is climate change real, or is racism really that big of a problem today? Isn't that country just defending itself? Like all these different kinds of questions. And by no means am I trying to make a political statement or a point or imply anything. I'm pointing at that which happens when we ask these questions, like that contraction that flares up when we ask certain questions that challenge our core beliefs about ourselves or about the world. And if you look at that deeply and slowly, and you don't try to postpone conclusion, but you slow down the mind enough that it automatically stops from doing that, then you can start to see that the mind operates always from a foundation of division and fear. Because we find security in our tribes, but to find security in our tribe or nationality or beliefs or opinions is to say, I am this and not that. It's to say there is this self that is not part of that non-self. And it may sound very philosophical, but it is at the root of everything that we do, the sense of separation and the sense of fear that motivates everything that we do. Because even if you try to be happy, or even if you have the best intentions to find a solution to an important problem, by default, everything that you do, because you operate from a position where you're just having thoughts about thoughts, and because these thoughts are based on fear, because you don't want people to be hurt, or you don't want people or yourself to be unhappy, that fear destroys any chance of finding a solution that isn't based on more fear or division. That's simply how it works. You can only have more division by finding a solution that is rooted in division. And so the question then doesn't become, okay, how do we stop from doing that? Because again, that would be based on fear, I would argue. But I would say a more interesting question is, why aren't we communicating differently already? What is preventing us from approaching life and approaching a conversation and from having an actual deep connection with someone or a problem Why isn't that our default already? And so I would say it's not a case of trying to understand our fears and our motivations, and it's probably more asking the question, like, what would happen if we can see things completely clearly and with an empty mind, and what is preventing us from doing so already?